సో మార్నింగ్ ప్రేయర్లో అనౌన్స్ చేశాం. ఈరోజు ఇది ఒక మంచి ప్రోగ్రామ్. సైన్స్కి సంబంధించిన ఆ వెరీ గుడ్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఇది. దీనికోసము సౌమిత్ర బెనర్జీ సార్, హీ ఈజ్ ఏ ప్రొఫెసర్ యాజ్ వెల్ యాజ్ ఎ సైంటిస్ట్. ఇండియన్ నేషనల్ సైన్స్ అకాడమీ నుండి, కోల్కతా నుండి వచ్చారు సార్ మన కోసం. సో మన కోసం అంత దూరం నుండి మీకు సైన్స్ మీద ఓరియంటేషన్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ ఇవ్వడానికి వచ్చారు. సో బిహాఫ్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ స్టూడెంట్స్ we are very much thankful to you sir. సో మీరు సైలెంట్గా కూర్చొని సార్ చెప్పిన పాయింట్స్ అన్ని నోట్ చేసుకోండి. ఇంపార్టెంట్ పాయింట్స్ ఏమైనా ఉంటే నోట్ చేసుకొని వాటిని మీ మెథడాలజీ మీ సైన్స్లో ఇంప్లిమెంటేషన్ చేసుకోండి. ఓకేనా? రైట్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. ప్లీజ్.
Is it okay? Okay. Okay.
Finish.
And is this necessary? Yes. Yeah. All right.
Madam, sir.
I am really happy to come to this school. Can you follow my English? I am speaking very slowly. Okay. Try to follow my English, but somebody will translate after that, but try to follow my English. Now you all are studying some science subjects. Science are there, a bit of physics is there, a bit of chemistry is there, maybe a bit of biology is there. Now if I ask you what is science, then many of you may think that it is a collection of these subjects: physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, all these put together is science. No, that is not science. That is just science subjects. Science is not that. Science is a way of thinking, how we think. One specific thing that distinguishes man from every other animal is the ability to think. We think, right? But thinking can be right and wrong. Right thinking is possible, wrong thinking is also possible. Now science is a way of thinking, and I would say right thinking. Now what is science then? See, we see things around us. We see the sun, we see the moon, we see the trees, the leaves are green, sky is blue, and we ask why? Why is the sky blue? Why are the leaves green? Why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? And every day without fail. It is not that some days sun is rising here, another day sun is rising there. No, always in the east and always in the west. Why? The moment you start asking these why questions, you start to become a scientist. So a scientist is nothing special, not any very special individual. A scientist is just a person who always asks the question why. Always says, I don't understand this. Therefore, the starting point of science is a question, and science is a way of answering those questions. Science is a way of answering those questions. So what did I say? What distinguishes a scientist from a non-scientist? A scientist asks why, and a non-scientist accepts whatever happens. A non-scientist accepts whatever is told to them. If I tell him something wrong, he accepts. He is not a scientist. If I tell him something or her something and she does not accept, ask why, convince me, then she is a scientist. You got the point? So this is what distinguishes a scientist from a non-scientist. A scientist asks questions. Now you know, questions can be why questions, how questions, what questions, where questions, when type of questions. So one can have various types of questions. When did this earth form? Is a question. Why is the sky blue? Is a question. How did humans originate on earth? Is a question. You see, each question is starting from a which, where, how, when, and ending with a question mark. So a scientist always asks questions. But when we try to answer the questions, there can be correct ways, there can be wrong ways. Everybody can have questions. You can have questions, you can have questions. But you can try to answer the question in a wrong way or in a right way. Now, if you try in a wrong way, however much you try, you will not get the right answer. But the way you try is the most important thing. The way you try. Okay. Now, in the past, people had questions and people tried to answer those questions. But mostly, the method was wrong. And because of that, many times people were led astray, did not get the right answer, all that happened. Let me give examples. In the olden times, very old times, for example, the Greek time, the Roman time, you heard in history books, there was a Greek period, there was a Roman period, there was Egyptian civilization. You have heard of those things? In those times, the method of science had not yet developed. So what did people do? If I have a question, I would think about it. I try to get an answer by thinking. My personal realization, what I think is correct. So what does the universe look like? Somebody thought and got an answer. Somebody thought and got an answer. Another person thinking about the same question, what does the universe look like, would get another answer. There is no reason to think that they will get the same answer. And naturally, in those times, each question will have plural answers, many answers. Now, if one thinker thinks and arrives at an answer, he or she will have followers. Somebody will follow him or her and will say that whatever that man says must be correct. He has said. Nowadays, science does not work that way. We understand that each question has one correct answer. There is no many correct answers. There cannot be. Therefore, we have abandoned that process. But let me give example. You see, in Greek time there was a very great philosopher, very great. I am really respectful of him. His name is Aristotle. Heard of him? In history book, Aristotle. Aristotle was Alexander's guru, his teacher, right? And Alexander conquered, almost half the known world at that time. So his guru must be a great man. Yes, he was a great man. You need to switch it off, otherwise it will continue to do this. No, not switch off. I mean, yeah. So he faced the question, what does the universe look like? Universe, everything. Now we see the sun going from one side to the other. We see the sun moving around the earth, right? We see the moon moving around the earth, and that is what people thought at that time. Okay, fine. Okay. So he thought that moon is going around the earth. The sun is going around the earth. But then are the planets. Now, have you ever seen how the planets move or is seen to move in the night sky? You can do an exercise very easily. Take a graph paper. Go out under the sky at say 8 o'clock in the evening. Take the graph paper up there like this. You will see some bright stars. Mark those bright stars on the graph paper. Okay. And mark one planet, say Mars, on the graph paper. Yesterday Mars was just below the moon. So you can easily identify that day. Yesterday. It was a very special day. Just below the moon. Now, the next day again go out. Take up the graph paper and again mark the position of the planet. You will find that it has moved a bit. Next day again do that. Next day again do that. You will find that the planet has a trajectory. It is moving. But then the movement is very peculiar. It goes and then stops and then turns around and then again goes forward, again turns around. A peculiar motion. It's not that the planets are going like this. No, we don't see them going like that. So Aristotle was faced with this question, why? He thought that these planets are embedded on transparent, he said, crystal spheres. And somebody is moving those spheres. So they are moving in this peculiar fashion. Got the point? So there were at that time 5 planets known: Mercury, Venus, not Earth. Earth was not known to be a planet. Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Up to that. So these planets are there, and then what? Then we see a black sky with the stars. So he thought that the universe ends with a canopy, like an umbrella, like a canopy, dark one, with the stars embedded. That's the end. How did he arrive at that? Thinking. He thought. And there were his followers. Right. And after that, after the Greek time, you know that there was a time called the Roman period. After that, there was a dark age. During that dark age, everybody believed. So the whole process of thinking was believe. Don't question. Believe. Whatever you are told, you believe. Whatever your forefathers believed, believe. Okay, whatever the great man believed, believe. That is how people thought. He wrote a book on physics, Aristotle, and there he faced the question, why do things move? Natural question, why do things move? He saw one horse pulling a cart, and so the cart is moving. So he generalized it and said that force produces motion. A bigger force will produce a bigger motion. So if you leave a heavier body and a lighter body, the heavier body will fall faster. So he wrote that in his book, and people believed. Why? Because people were told to believe. At that time, my mindset was believe, don't question. And how long did it continue? How long did it believe? People believe? 2000 years. Remember, all those 2000 years, there are students like you. They were told to believe, they believed. They passed exams. They became teachers like us. They told the same thing. The students again believed. They became teachers. And this continued for how many years? 2000 years. And then at some point of time, one teacher named Galileo Galilei, he told the students, चलो करके देखते हैं. So let's go and test it. So he took his students to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He was a professor in the Pisa University. So he took his students to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and then he dropped one heavy mass of iron and a small mass of iron, and they fell with the same sound. They fell together. That was the first time somebody said, चलो करके देखते हैं. Let's try it. Let's try it. What does it mean? I should not believe what I have been told. I should test it. I should always test it. Now that started a complete different way of thinking. The earlier mode of thinking is called subjective thinking. Subject thinks. The later way of thinking was objective thinking, where the scientist said that what I am thinking can be wrong. Therefore, it is my task to test. So from there, a way of thinking emerged which says that everything that I think should be based on evidence, should be tested. Now science is resting on that. Okay, science is not what is written in your textbooks. These are written because this has been proposed and tested, and you should not believe without testing. Okay, the teacher comes to the class and says Archimedes principle. पढ़ा ना? Archimedes principle you have taught. You have been taught that there is pressure of air, and you believed. Why? Because the teacher is teaching. If I do not write the same thing in the exam, then I will get 0. So I believe. No. The right way of thinking is always testing before believing. And here the test is very simple. You take a glass of water, put a postcard on it, make it upside down, it will not fall. That is the proof that there is pressure of the air. Do it yourself. Your class textbook says that if you do this, this will happen, right? Don't believe that. Do it. Do it and then believe. That is how science has emerged. Science has emerged by actually not believing. Science has emerged by doubting. And science has emerged by testing. So, what is science? Science is a way of thinking that tells you, remember, now I am saying very important thing. Science says don't believe anything without evidence. Always demand evidence. Anything that is told to you, say why should I believe? Evidence. Now if you apply that to every sphere of your life, then that is called scientific temper, scientific bent of mind. And our Indian constitution demands every student to have that scientific bent of mind. There is an article in the constitution that demands every person, every citizen to have a scientific temper. Not only you should have the scientific temper, you should also propagate that scientific temper. What does it say again? It says don't believe anything without evidence. Unless you see evidence, if you are told something, don't believe it. Even if it is told by your senior people, even if it is told by your father, even if it is told by a scientist. Okay, you have been told that I am a scientist, I am telling something, therefore believe he is a scientist. Bhaiya, no. The scientist is telling, don't believe unless you see evidence. So what a scientist says is not science. This is important. A scientist is also a human being. A scientist can also believe all sorts of unscientific things. Therefore, even if a scientist says something, don't believe. Demand evidence. Very important. Always demand evidence. Now, science works on the basis of one thing called causality. Anything happens, there must be a cause. If I lift it and release it, it falls. Why did it fall? There must be a cause. And in order to find that cause, Newton discovered gravity. How did he discover? Because he had in mind there must be a cause. If the earth is going around the sun, there must be a cause. If I throw something, it falls in a particular place, not in another place. Why? There must be a cause. A river comes only from the top to the bottom, not the other way up. Why? There must be a cause. So everything should have a cause. So science believes in causality. Now, science does not believe in, science believes that the world is made of material entities only, matter, things around us. There is a fan, is a thing. There is a wall, is a thing. There is air, thing. There are trees, sun, moon, things. And all our questions are directed to these things. But there is another way of thinking that says, no. Apart from this, there are things which we cannot see, which you cannot feel, which you cannot touch, like ghost. That's another way of thinking. Like miracles. Miracles happen. Another way of thinking. Scientists think, no. Whatever are there, I can feel, I can touch, I can smell, I can see, I can at least with my instruments see. Atoms are not visible, but with your instruments we can see them. Microorganisms, your COVID virus is not visible, but with the proper microscope we can see them. Which means that everything is amenable to our senses. What are not, they don't exist. So, ghosts, do not exist, scientists would say. But a unscientific person may believe those things. How does it manifest? For example, if say you have malaria, what caused the malaria? A scientist will try to find out what is the microorganism, what is the bacterium or virus or parasite that has gone into your body, that has caused this ailment, something that is testable. An unscientific person may say, no, you did some sin in your previous birth. In your previous birth you did some sin, that is why this has happened. Science does not believe on those things. So science believes in things that can be tested. Clear? So what did I say? That science is not just a collection of subjects. Science is a way of thinking. That way of thinking says, don't believe anything without evidence. That way of thinking says that the world is composed of matter and matter only. There is nothing but matter. Anything that is non-matter, like ghost, like chamatkar, don't believe those things. Somebody says that I can perform a miracle. I'll do like this and Rasgulla will come to my hand. I'll give you. Scientists will say that okay, there must be a physical way that Rasgulla came in your hand. It's not a chamatkar. Any magician can do that. So a magician would say that I have fooled you. I have fooled you. I have shown you something that actually I did not do. I just held up a handkerchief and after some time it became a parrot and it flew away. Actually, people think that it's miracle. No. The scientist said, I simply fooled you. The magician says. So whenever you see anything like that, a scientist would say, there must be a physical thing happening. Whenever you see some chamatkar happening, chamatkar means miracle happening, a scientific bent of mind will say that there must be a physical process going on. For example, a few years back, we heard the Ganesha idols are drinking milk, right? That happened. Many people believed, and then they queued up in front of the idol, they offered milk. A scientific bent of mind, person with a scientific bent of mind will say that, oh, I have studied the law of conservation of matter, and therefore if the milk is disappearing from my spoon, it must be going somewhere. Let's go and check out where it's going. An unscientifically minded person will not say that. Will say that it's chamatkar happening, it's a miracle happening. That is what distinguishes. Now what I am trying to say is that the Indian Constitution demands you to have a scientific bent of mind. Therefore, while you study science, try to study it with a questioning mind. Always try to test whatever being told. And most of the things that you study in school can be tested. Tested not in very hi-fi laboratory, can be tested in day-to-day things, but test it before believing and make it a mental habit. Second point, I said that do not believe anything that do not exist. And third thing, I said that believe in causality. Causality means whatever happens, there must be a cause. If you fail in an exam, there must be a cause. I did not study properly. You cannot say that I did not wear that ring, therefore my Saturn is angry on me and that is why I failed badly in the exam. No. There is a physical process behind anything that happens. Get the point? Now, if you practice that every day, day in and day out, whatever you are hearing, you immediately ask, what is the evidence? Otherwise, I will not believe it. Something is being said on TV. Many people believe, TV में बोल रहा है भाई, जरूर सही होगा. No. No. Something is being said on TV, ask yourself, what is the evidence? Somebody saying something, again ask, what is the evidence? If you see evidence, believe it. If you don't see evidence, don't believe it. And tell others not to believe it, because there is no evidence. Okay, this is the method of science. And those who you see as scientists, great scientists, Newton, Aristotle, Newton, Einstein, Darwin, Louis Pasteur, all these great scientists, how did they become scientists? They are men like us, normal people. The only difference is that they practiced what I just told you to practice. About everything they questioned, about everything they inquired, about everything they tried to find out the truth, and the moment you practice it, you all can become scientists. Okay, you all can become scientists. Okay, I'll stop here and maybe you translate and then we can have some question answer.